Welcome to Business Income Part 4. We're going to talk about extra expense today. My name is Lori Infantino, President of the Insurance Community University. Let's first talk about the fact this is called extra expense. And again, we're trying to make this easy. So this is only extra expense that an insured would incur following a loss. We're never going to pay for normal operating expenses here, because we know that normal operating expenses are going to be covered under the loss of business income. So this is an extra expense form. So the way this works is this. The business income form can be written two ways. It can be written with business income and extra expense, or business income without extra expense. They're two different form numbers. There is never a reason to write business income without extra expense. Extra expense can be a very important coverage to your insured. And the reality is that it costs almost nothing to include extra expense. So let's talk about that for a moment. All the business income forms are actually rated based on the building rate where your insured's premises are occupied. And so we take that building rate and then we multiply it times factors. If I write business income with extra expense, it only costs 5% more than writing business income without extra expense. So let's make that in a number situation. Let's say I have a 10-cent building rate, and now it's a 5% surcharge. We're really talking about very little additional money for this form. And you will find that extra expense is a very important coverage to the insured. Extra expense can be written all by itself. There is a form called extra expense insurance. It's very expensive. By comparison, it costs 2 times the building rate. Now, why would you write an extra expense form only, not giving the insured the luxury of the benefit of the business income component? Because we're really not sure what's going to happen at the time of loss. So the combination form is always the form. There's not going to be 2 separate limits. It's going to be one limit. Only the business income part of this form is going to have an insurance to value clause. So we can write extra expense for whatever limit we want, and there will be no penalty for underinsurance. It's found actually under what we call the additional coverages, and it's going to pay any of the necessary extra expenses that they need to reopen, to continue operations, to attract new customers or re-attract the customers. So what might that be? Well, see, I jotted a couple of them down here. Moving expenses. So let's say it's an office and they have to move out and they have to now have moving expenses. They have to pay additional rent. They may have to rent equipment. And sometimes the rental of equipment can be a very key issue, especially when you're talking about insureds that have more customized equipment. How about overtime that they're going to have to pay their own employees now because they might have to work extra hours? And all the other people kind of costs that they had never anticipated before, such as watchmen to watch their building while it's being repaired so that nobody enters. It could be professional services like attorneys that they may have to hire and so forth and so on. These are all extra expenses. They are not part of the continuing expenses. Now, the nice thing about extra expense is it's an immediate hit. I mentioned, I believe in the second session, that for business income, we're not going to be paid on a daily, monthly basis. We're going to pay 30 days after we sign that proof of loss. And that's when we're able to prove the loss and the insurance company requests it. With extra expense, we can be paid immediately as soon as we prove we need that particular cost reimbursed. You're also going to find in extra expense that if the form has a waiting period, that there is no waiting period that is applicable to the extra expense section. So a parting thought, extra expense can be written on its own, but then it also could be written in combination. The business income and extra expense is always the form of choice, and that's what we should be requesting from our insured. So I think this one was pretty easy. I'm trying. Join us for Section 5. That'll be challenging. We'll talk about leasehold interest insurance. See you then.
That was easy.